You're listening to the Estranged Heart podcast, and I'm your host, Kreed Revere. Welcome back to our returning listeners, and if this is your first time here, thank you for selecting this podcast to listen to. As we begin today's episode, I invite you to grab a cup of coffee or tea, settle in, and listen with an open heart. First, the regular disclaimer. I am not a licensed therapist or counselor. Nothing within this podcast should be considered or taken as therapy. If you are in need of therapeutic support, such as counseling, please seek out a therapist near you. For today's announcements and reminders, I'd first like to say Happy Father's Day to estranged adult children who are fathers, to estranged parents who are fathers, and may be listening in to this podcast, and even those who are not estranged. If you happen to have a loved one or a friend who is estranged and you're listening today and you're a dad, Happy Father's Day. An announcement. I have been asked repeatedly for some time now for a couple of things. One of those is a workshop, and a workshop on validation, and what validation is, why it's important, and how validation can help us to move through the pain of estrangement and get to the other side, and how validation can help us to reconcile. So that workshop is coming in August. There will be more details about that to come, so please tune in and listen for that. I'll also be announcing that on the Facebook page for the Estranged Heart. And the second piece is, this is something that folks have been requesting since I started the podcast, and that is an online Zoom support group. So my current support group that I have on Facebook is strictly online. It's not voice. It's, just posting on a group within Facebook. And I know that there have been many who have been interested in and feel that they could be supported more deeply by having a quote-unquote face-to-face support group. And because I have followers international followers from all over the world, I will probably have two of these groups just so that I can accommodate time frames. I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like yet, but those are coming in September. So if you are interested in either the validation workshop in August and or the Zoom support group that is coming in September, please email me. Email me at theestrangedheart@gmail.com. Again, theestrangedheart@gmail.com. And again, I want to thank those of you who have made donations as of late. Your financial support for this podcast and my work with estranged parents and adult children is just deeply appreciated. I am sincerely humbled by those of you who believe in the work that I'm doing and have chosen to financially help to support that work. So thank you. If you would like information on how to make a donation, a one-time donation, a monthly donation, what have you, there will be information on how to do that in the show notes. And one more reminder, if you've ever considered starting your own podcast, check out thejohncollective.com. Classes begin tomorrow. And I highly recommend John and his knowledge, experience, his integrity, those types of things. So go visit his website if you feel that it's something of interest to you. So let's begin with some quotes for today's episode. The first one is, little things can cause big shifts. Change doesn't have to be drastic for changes to occur. Everything starts in the mind. A slight tweak in perspective, or how you see a situation, a person, a relationship, your story, can ripple into secondary change. Subtle starts with curious. Curious can lead to new doors, which may be right next to old ones. But it's in the subtle twist that you enter a new door, and new doors lead to new paths. Twist your mind today. And that is by The Angry Therapist, aka John Kim. You can follow him on social media. He's on all the social media platforms. The second quote is, "Cry as often as you need to. It's the all-purpose healing balm of the soul." And that is by Carla McLaren. She is the author of The Language of Emotions. And the third and final quote for today is, "Help can be the sunny side of control." And that is by Anne Lamott. She's an author of many books. Google her name. All of her work will come up. So today's episode is titled, "What to Tell Others When the Questions Come," and how to talk about estrangement with family, friends, and strangers. I have especially this past week. I don't know exactly what's in the air, but a lot of people are struggling with this, and I think that part of it might be, it's summer months. We're having all sorts of family gatherings, graduations, vacations, those types of things, as well as just in general, running into people that we would not normally run into during the normal course of our days, and friends getting together to celebrate, sun in the fun, so to speak. And so I know that this is a question I get from every single estranged person I work with, is how do I talk about this? What do I say? I will say that generally estranged adult children tend to be more vocal, upfront and honest about their relationship with their parents that they are estranged from. And I will tell you that estranged parents are generally not willing to disclose the truth of their estrangement, and there are reasons for that. So I want to kind of dive into that and see if I can help you to feel a little more empowered to speak the truth in a way that honors you and your needs as you're walking through your estrangement experience, and in a way that helps to bring truth to the experience. And I know that that's really difficult to do when shame and pain is underlying that. So let's kind of dive into this. The first thing I want to talk about is, how do we explain something that we don't understand? It's hard. And depending on the stage you are at in your estrangement experience, how you choose to explain something or discuss something with someone may change and evolve over time. When I was estranged from my daughters, in the very beginning, I couldn't talk about it with people at all. And that was because I would come apart emotionally when someone talked about my kids, or I talked about my kids. I mean, just sobbing and crying, and, would probably have left people feeling like, oh my goodness, what is wrong with her? She has lost it. So I understand when the shock of estrangement occurs, the shame that comes with that, and this feeling of trying to protect yourself from others and what they may potentially say is a very real thing. And at the same time, on the other side of this now, I encourage the estranged people that I work with, that if you're leaning towards not disclosing that to people and not telling your truth, I encourage you and invite you to consider a way of being truthful, but keeping it to a minimum and not going, into a full-on explanation and bashing session of your kids or your parents, but just simply stating facts, right? So what I typically hear is, I just tell people my kids have busy lives and I don't see or hear from them much, to my parents want nothing to do with me, so I don't talk to them, to I don't want to talk about my kids, to my parents are dead, to I don't have kids. And while I understand those last two, I understand where those statements are coming from, those answers are coming from a place of deep hurt and pain. I'm not an advocate of that. And I'm not an advocate of it because if you have parents and you tell people they're dead, that's not truthful. And if you have children and you tell people you don't have children, that's not truthful. And lies hurt. And not just hurt someone else, but they can hurt us, the person speaking the untruth. So I highly, highly, highly encourage honesty. That being said, do I feel that someone has to just lay it all out on the line for someone who's not close, or a neighbor or a colleague or coworker or a general acquaintance? No, absolutely not. You have every right to determine who has access to your story, right? You don't have to reveal your entire story to everyone that crosses your path. You absolutely do not have to. The more we can share our story, the more we can heal. And when I say share our story, I mean sharing our story with others in a way that is held within a safe container. So it's kind of like Brene Brown talks about, the fighter in the ring. I can't remember the quote that she references all the time, but it's basically, if you're not in the ring, quote unquote, fighting this fight with me, you don't get a say. And I don't have to share my story with you, right? If someone's not in your estrangement story and experience, they don't get an automatic pass to know your story and be in the middle of it with you. So you have control over that. You have choices on who you elect to share that information with. So you have choices on how to respond, right? Again, truth is always best, in my opinion. This is my opinion. It doesn't mean that it's the gospel, and it doesn't mean that it's right for everyone. It doesn't mean that you have to follow what I say. You are an individual human being, and you can elect not to follow what I say. However, I have found, it's been my experience, my personal experience, as well as the experience of working with estranged people, that when they can be honest with others about their story, they tend to move through things a little more quickly and get to the other side a little more quickly. And when I say the other side, that doesn't necessarily mean reconciliation. There are people who don't reconcile, right? But they get through the pain. They don't get stuck in it. and weighed down and unable to move, and then think that anybody and everybody in life is just out to, hurt them, and it's just a piece of crap, and all of the negativity. They're able to move through the pain to get to the other side, to be able to have joy in their life again, even if their estranged child or estranged parent is not in their life. So, remember your boundaries, right? When you choose how to respond, you can make a simple statement. You don't have to go into a great detail. Something as simple as, I haven't talked to little Johnny lately. That's the truth. If you haven't talked to him, you haven't talked to him. Right? If they come back and say, well, so-and-so said such and such, and, have you heard about any of that? No, I haven't. Well, why wouldn't little Johnny share that with you? I mean, you're his mom. I don't know. That would be a question for John. So see where that's, it's stating facts, and it's kind of sort of taking the emotion out of it, right? And just stating facts. And again, I know that's hard to do in the very, very beginning. Okay. For me, I was able to practice that and have all of my emotions witnessed and validated in therapy. And that enabled me to be able to begin to have conversations without breaking down. But it occurred in that safe container of the therapy room first. So what if I don't want others to know, right? What if you say, my next door neighbor is just, she's a busybody and can't stay out of people's business, and I just don't want to have to answer the 101 questions that I know is coming the next time I'm in my garden and she peeks over the fence and sees me there, right? You can simply say to people, I'm not open to discussing this. Period. No explanation. No going into details as to why. A simple statement. I'm not open to discussing that. And turn around and walk off. We, especially women, I think, are, kind of conditioned to provide explanations for everything. And I'm here to tell you, you don't have to explain anything to anyone if you don't want to. So, I would invite you to explore why you don't want to share something with someone. Now, if it's because the next door neighbor is nosy and just wants to gossip about your pain to everybody in the neighborhood, that's one thing. But if someone is, has good intentions and is wanting to help, and you don't want to share that, I would invite you to get curious about why that is. And I can tell you that oftentimes beneath that is the shame and the hurt, right? I will be judged. I don't want people judging me. Those types of things. I have failed as a parent, and I'm just this horrible person. All the chatter that we say to each other, say to ourselves. And that goes for estranged adult children. They're going through the same thing. And I know that parents don't believe that, but they do. They have people that tell them, how could you not talk to your parent? My goodness. You only have one parent, or you only have one set of parents. So they get shamed just as much as estranged parents get shamed. Now, granted, if the child has chosen, this is a chosen decision that they've made, although estranged adult children will say, it really wasn't a choice. I had no other, I had to, right? They kind of forced my hand. But estranged parents generally for the most part, have not made the choice to estrange. And so it's a decision that's been forced upon them. So there is a difference there, and I acknowledge that. So try to look at the shame and the hurt and explore that in therapy, with a coach, with a trusted, faith leader, whatever the case may be. Try to address the shame and the hurt, because until you address that, that's the lens through which you're going to look at the world, and it's going to color everything you see, you hear, you do. Okay? So what do you do? How do you address well-meaning yet unhelpful solicited advice or suggestions? Because Lord knows we all have our opinions on what other people should be doing and shouldn't be doing, and so on and so forth. So one of the things that I've learned in therapy is people can only meet you as far as they've come, right? So if that is the place that they're stuck at in their world, then that's where they're at, and you're not going to change them. So you have to learn how to navigate yourself, right? And I started off with, I understand that they are well-intentioned, that they have the best of intentions of trying to help me, but telling me, oh, they'll come around, when I'm in the throes of estrangement and just got an email from my kid that says, I hate you, I don't ever want to talk to you again. Hearing someone say, oh, they'll come around, in a very nonchalant way. And again, remember that it's not necessarily words, but also tone, right? That someone says something. I mean, that's just not something I wanted to hear. Like, absolutely, I wanted to just smack the person across the face. Like, do not tell me that. So, I had to learn in my own way, again, through therapy, on how could I get to a place where I could accept that this person really had the best of intentions and just didn't know better. Because when I was able to get to that place, it took the charge out of, what they said, and then my wanting to slap them across the face. It no longer continued. I mean, I kind of sort of then looked at them like, wow, I'm so sorry that they're stuck there in that place, that they feel that that's helpful to someone in immense pain, right? So I think it's being honest, again, with that person, and to say, I know that you mean well, but that's just really not what I want to hear right now. And if they go, oh, I'm so sorry, say it's okay. I kind of do this thing where I put my hands up and I say, it's okay. It's just not helpful right now. I appreciate it, but it's just right now not so helpful. Can we talk about so-and-so or such and such or whatever, and change the subject. People don't know that they're not being helpful or that they're being hurtful if we don't tell them. Yet, we can tell them in a way that isn't mean and vindictive, right? There's a difference in saying, I know that was well-intentioned, but that's just not helpful for me right now, versus, that's a really shitty thing to say to somebody. How dare you? Two very different things, right? So learning how to be able to stand up for yourself and say that this is not working for you. This is not helpful for you, right? You can offer to come back to the table on that, Right now, I just can't listen to this right now, and I know that you have the best of intentions, and I'd like to come back to this at a time when I'm feeling a little more grounded and able to sit with what you're telling me. And right now I just can't. And that's okay. Right? It's important to let them know it's not working for you right now, but that you're open to come back to the table with it later. Right? Because most people, if they're well-intended and you tell them it's whatever they have said to you is hurtful or not working for them, most people are going to go into defensiveness and, oh my God, I'm so sorry, and apologizing profusely and all of those things. And you want to minimize that as well. And how we deliver it, the tone in which we deliver it can make or break that. Okay? What if you are a friend to someone who is estranged? So we've been talking about people talking with estranged people and things that are hurtful and not helpful and, those kinds of things. So what can someone do if they have a loved one who is estranged? I have a couple of suggestions. Number one is to understand the power of words and tone and to speak gently. And if you don't know how to do that, you could preface a conversation with someone to say, I'm not entirely sure how to go about talking to you about estrangement because I've not experienced it before, but I want you to know that I'm here and I care. Right? You're telling them, and again, the tone means everything. And you're telling them you want to help, you don't know how, right? And then respect whatever their decision is. So if they come back to you and say, I appreciate it, but I just don't have it in me today to talk about it. Absolutely fine. I'm here if and when you're ready. Okay? Number 2, get comfortable with your own emotions. Because generally the reason why people are telling the positive side, oh, they'll come around, oh, it's just a phase, oh, all those things, is because they are not able to sit within the discomfort of their own emotions. It's kind of like when someone dies, someone's had a tragic accident and has been wounded and, significantly, people mean well when they come in and say, well, thank goodness they didn't die. Or, I understand he died, but you're so young. You can go on and have another family. Oh my God. That kind of stuff makes me, wow, just sends me right off the deep end. Because it's just, I know people mean well, but it's so unbelievably unhelpful. Okay? And it's because people are fearful of their emotions. And they're fearful, scared to death to get in touch with pain. And I know you've heard me, if I've said it once, I've said it many times on this podcast. The only way out is through. Oh, you can climb over it. You can go under it. You can go around it. But I am here to tell you, it's coming with you. And you will face it again and again and again and again until you deal with it head on. So, okay, side note, sorry. Number 3, learn empathy. Put yourself in that person's shoes. What would you want said to you if you were estranged? And if you don't know what that is, I invite you to think about it. Okay. The next one is the power of validation. Validating someone's pain. Again, this comes back to the getting comfortable with our own emotions. And if people have not been able to do that, it's very hard for them to validate feelings. To say, I understand that you're in so much pain right now, and I am so sorry. Right? You're validating their experience. And validation doesn't mean that you agree with it. Okay? The next one is do not talk bad about the person they are estranged from. And this is another thing that people do, thinking they're trying to be helpful, right? But I remember when, back in the day, especially in the South, we used to say, I can pick on my little brother or my big sister or what have you all day long, but don't you dare come in and say something about my sister or my brother, right? It's kind of the same thing. I can talk about my kid all day long. I can talk about my parent all day long, but that does not give you the right to come in and do the same thing. So be mindful about talking bad about the person they're estranged from. To walk in and tell someone, oh my God, your kid is such an idiot. How dare they treat you this way? Oh my God, I just want to smack him across the face. No. Do not do that. It's not helpful, and it doesn't feel good to the parent or the child if you're talking about their parent. Even if the parent or the child, the estranged parent or the estranged adult child is just pissed off to no end with their parent or child, that is their person that they're talking about. They do not need your input on that. And this is something that I have to tell you is this is one of the rules of my online support group, is that I do not tolerate people talking bad from, so my group is for estranged moms, and I do not tolerate bad mouthing our estranged children. I won't have it. It's one of the group rules people have to agree to when they join the group. And if they talk about it, once they're become a member of the group, they're given one warning. And if they elect to do it again, they're removed from the group. It's just that simple for me. I don't allow it. And it's the one rule that I hear from so many members saying, thank you, Kreed, for not allowing people to bash our kids. So don't do it, please. And for estranged parents and I'm sure estranged kids, some estranged kids, mention their estranged loved one. It's kind of like when people die and people go around and they don't ever talk about the person who died, right? It's as if they've never existed. And it's so painful, especially for a parent who is in immense hurt and pain. Generally, children, estranged adult children, have so much anger that it affects them, but it affects them differently. But talk about their children. They have children. And make mention of them, right? Because when you don't, it feels to the estranged parent, at least it did for me, that it was like I can't keep this. This feels awful. I have 2 children. I can't pretend I don't. It was as if part of my life experience just up and disappeared when people didn't talk about my kids. And I couldn't live with that. So one of the things you could do is ask the estranged person, is it okay if I talk about little Johnny, little Susie? Or is it okay if I talk about your parents? I want to be respectful of your feelings. Just let me know. Right? So, and one other thing that I want to close with is, remember, it's really hard to find, quote unquote, find our tribe if we're not being our true selves. All right, it's kind of hard for people to find us if we're not being authentic, and we may never know what someone else is going through if we're not honest and forthright with our experiences. And I understand that it's scary. But my suggestion is to start small and to start, again, within the safe container of the therapy room or with a coach, that kind of thing. But it's the one thing that I hear, again, so much when people write to me about the podcast is my being vulnerable, my vulnerability. And getting in touch with that gives permission for other people to get in touch with their vulnerability. And that's what makes for a more soft and tender world. And I don't know about you, but I think I've reached my quota on harshness in this world. I could use some more tenderness and some more grace. So, I'm a proponent of telling people the truth. If you feel like you're not able to, I would encourage you to find a way to make a statement that is truthful without revealing too much information. Okay? So this brings this episode to a close. I hope that this time together was time you feel well spent and that you are able to find some takeaway nuggets to help you on your journey, wherever you may be on your estrangement and reconciliation path. If you feel you have received something helpful or positive from this podcast, please consider following us, sharing this podcast with others, leaving a positive review, or becoming a financial supporter. You can also follow us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok under the same name, The Estranged Heart. And lastly, if you are an estranged parent or an estranged adult child and would like to have your story shared on the podcast, anonymously or not, please reach out via email to theestrangedheart@gmail.com. Again, theestrangedheart@gmail.com. Until next time.